Madam Deputy President, I move my notice number 10 on the order of precedence that this House A notes the Abbott government has halted the rollout of NBN in areas which do not have contracts awarded, while it reviews the possible models for provision of broadband. B notes that the Liberal and Nationals fibre to the node model is vastly inferior to the fibre and to the premises model being rolled out by Labor. C notes that rolling out two different systems in towns around New South Wales will create a digital divide, with some New South Wales regional towns and cities having dramatically different broadband speeds than other similar centres or even parts of those centres. D notes that this digital divide will mean communities relying on the Coalition's inferior fibre to the node model losing out on business and residential investment compared to communities that have fibre to the premises. E calls on the Abbott government to ensure that regional New South Wales does not suffer a digital discrimination by acknowledging the error of its misleading pre-election claims and commitments on broadband and implementing in full Labor's NBN for rural and regional New South Wales. And F calls on the O'Farrell government and particularly Regional Development Minister Andrew Stoner to break their silence on this massive issue for regional New South Wales and strongly lobby the federal government for a full rollout of Labor's NBN model. Madam Deputy Speaker, President, in the middle of the 20th century, electricity had made it to most New South Wales major towns, but there were large slabs of rural and regional New South Wales that were not connected. A Labor government decided that leaving it to the private sector or local councils was not an option. They formed the State Electricity Authority and rolled out electricity to the thousands who'd missed out. At the time, Conservative parties opposed what they said was expensive government interference. It's an interesting parallel to today's situation with the NBN. What if back in the 1940s and 50s the Coalition had got its way and stopped the rollout of electricity? Unthinkable? Yes, yet that's exactly what's about to happen with the NBN. The NBN, or superfast broadband, shouldn't be the subject of a debate in Australia about whether it's too expensive. It's more about whether we can afford not to have it. The NBN is just as significant to regional New South Wales as the railways were in the 19th century and electricity was in the 20th century. Broadband is not just a debate about some technology that only a few people would use. Within a few years it will be a critical technology for every household and business. What's really depressing is that the biggest investment in infrastructure in regional New South Wales in living memory was demonised by the very people who should have been giving it bipartisan support because of the benefit that it could contribute to rural communities. I suspect there is a number of people who didn't really understand the benefits, but unfortunately it became part of the political debate of a media campaign against the former Labor government. And unfortunately, because of the negative campaign from the Coalition and their media allies, particularly those with strong vested interests, we now have the distressing situation where some New South Wales communities will miss out on the world's best standard communications that they would have had if the NBN had fully rolled out. Labor's NBN would have provided rural towns in New South Wales with broadband speeds equivalent to the best in the world. Starting speeds of 100 megabits per second with the capacity to scale up would provide a rural community with the broadband infrastructure that would help them to attract new business and new residents to the community. Without optic fibre to the home, Australia's ranking in broadband speeds will continue to fall behind. This is a fact recognised quite bizarrely by one of the trenchant critics of the NBN, News Limited, with a story on news.com headed Australia web speeds ranking dwindles to 40th place globally. That article recognises that Australia lags well behind nations like South Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and at the time of this article we ranked just ahead of New Zealand. But I'll come back to that because we've now fallen behind New Zealand. A key point for rural New South Wales is that our trading partners and competitors have internet speeds massively outstripping ours, and when a global business looks to set up in a country, it simply will not choose second best. Singapore, which is already ahead of Australia in internet speeds, is leaping further ahead with a fibre to the premises network which will reach 95% of all Singapore homes. Singapore's users will be able to choose packages of up to 1 gigabyte per second for around $320 per month, or what they call lower-end users accessing 100 megabytes per second at a cost of $56 per month. Labor's proposed NBN would have delivered initial speeds of 100 megabytes per second to those on the fibre to the premises, while the Liberals' lesser option promises speeds of up to 25 megabits per second, well below the speeds that our competitors and other countries and similar-sized towns will be receiving around the world. Even New Zealand is about to leap ahead. Towns and cities in New Zealand are about to be connected to fibre to the premises, meaning residents in those communities will enjoy speeds more than 4 times faster than similar-sized New South Wales communities. So Invercargill in New Zealand, with 52,000 residents, will have fibre to the premises with 100 megabits per second, while Queanbeyan, Bathurst and Orange miss out. While towns like Wagga miss out, with only a couple of new areas of development receiving that. Queenstown, with a population of 16,000, will be receiving fibre to the premises, while towns like Cooma, Bombala, Bungendore, Braidwood miss out. It really puts those communities at a very significant disadvantage. If you are looking to set up a business in a regional community, if you're an international business looking to set up, will you choose the town with the second-rate communications option? Clearly you will not. One of the economic benefits of superfast broadband are very clear. Numerous studies tell us that optic fibre broadband brings significant economic opportunities to local communities. The Global Information Technology Report of 2013 includes an article by Sean Williams of British Telecom, which quotes fibre broadband as a foundation for social and economic growth. In that article, Williams says, superfast broadband access has the potential to transform local economies, businesses, households and public services. It will help improve the performance of existing firms, enable new businesses to emerge and encourage flexible working patterns. Superfast broadband is key to opening global markets to regions previously denied access, providing new job opportunities and boosting productivity. The report highlighted particular positive impacts on rural and regional communities. This report and others like it highlight some of the key values. Superfast broadband assisting new businesses to emerge and reducing the cost of doing business. Firms of all sizes can exploit cloud technology, reducing their costs and reducing the need to invest in hardware. One of the problems with the debate in Australia has been in the involvement of people who clearly haven't taken the time to understand what they are talking about. Did the objectors to the railways in the 19th century express the view that no one should get railways because the road near their house still wasn't good enough? I doubt it. Yet during this debate we've heard from various people, including at least one minister who regularly sits here at the table, that the NBN was no good because they still didn't have good reception in their area, or that that Crookwell wouldn't have got the, and his property Crookwell wouldn't have got the NBN fibre. But first, that fails to understand the importance of optic fibre as a backbone to improving mobile phone coverage, and second, it reflects an unhealthy attitude that says if I can't have it, you can't either. The fact is, rolling out NBN and optic fibre will help provide better mobile phone coverage because mobile phone towers need a fibre backbone, and the NBN in regional New South Wales could help to do that. It helps to lower the cost of providing that backbone, so it could provide cheaper and easier access for communications tower. It also provides a very important benefit to those people who are going to be using wireless, because as those people who've looked at this would know, the more users you have on a wireless technology, the slower it gets. So the more people you can roll out NBN to in a region, so for instance if you have NBN rolled out to Orange, to the town of Orange, the city of Orange, to the metropolitan areas, those people on the outskirts relying on fixed wireless will get much faster speeds because there will be less people taking up the available spectrum there, the available width of band there. It's the same with the satellite. The satellite slows down as more people are on it. And I listened the other morning on Australia All Over when a caller phoned in to say that their satellite now was far too slow because there was too many people on the satellite communications. Now under Labor's NBN, 2 new satellites are going up, and fortunately under the NBN model by Labor, the Abbott government has actually committed to continuing the launch of the 2 new satellites next year, and that will significantly improve the satellite upload and download speeds, which at this stage, upload speeds particularly, are excruciatingly slow for people on satellite. Labor's NBN committed to providing people in areas of remote New South Wales that coverage either by the fixed wireless or satellite, and I think actually 2016 is when they're going up, and that is pleasing that they are going to continue. Those technologies should supplement a good fibre to the premises model. Now, we saw a lot of political comment made by the Abbott government when they were in opposition about the price of the NBN. We've now had an admission from Malcolm Turnbull's parliamentary secretary earlier this year that perhaps their estimate of the cost of Labor's NBN was a little high. In fact, they were out by about $34 billion in their estimates of the cost. They ran around claiming it would cost $90 billion, around $34 billion more than the most recent price quoted by the NBN Co itself. Now, the question I go back to here is, why is it that members of the Nationals and the Liberals think that regional New South Wales is not worth that investment? It is worth that investment, and indeed, to be competitive, we need to see those speeds going in. A business in regional New South Wales now, under an NBN model in a community which has it, one like Armidale, where the rollout has already occurred, has the opportunity to be globally competitive without leaving home. It has the opportunity for a business to establish in an area and network all its workforce into that business so that they can work from home or in the premises and communicate with the world at the world's fastest speeds. When we lose that advantage, we lose a significant competitive advantage. And as many people in regional New South Wales are becoming aware, our businesses now don't just have to be competitive locally, they have to be competitive globally. Australia, on the latest OECD table, has an average speed of 36.48 megabits per second, a median speed of 24.58. Now, that includes the metro areas, which are much faster. The OECD average is already 44.44 for the average speed. Countries like Sweden, Japan, Korea are well over that, and New Zealand is also heading to overtake Australia as they roll out their fibre. We rank on the rankings of broadband penetration. Apologies, Deputy President. We rank on the proportion of broadbands behind countries like the UK, Hungary, France, Austria. Actually, it was Dubbo Radio wanting to hear some information about some of those issues. And we rank now well behind New Zealand as it rolls out.
You're a celebrity, Steve.
OECD statistics also tell us that the percentage of fibre connections in total broadband among countries now has Australia at 1.97%, with an OECD average of 15.75%. Japan, 68.45%, Korea, 62.75%, and many other countries, including Iceland. Even Greece is now overtaking Australia, and we know the economic issues that they've had in that area. Australia, the fixed wideband broadband penetration, again following behind New Zealand and the United States. It is a significant issue for rural communities, and one which it's a shame that the opposition to Labor at the last federal election and the Liberals and Nationals overall haven't been able to get on board with. Sydney Morning Herald quoted a study which showed that Labor's national broadband network would give a boost to the average household in value of $3,800 a year.
Sorry, which journalist?
For a single income household with a small business and 2 children to support, the report quoted said would be $7,000 a year better off. Yet what we see from the Liberals and Nationals was short-term political point scoring, and we now have a situation where we have real haves and have-nots in New South Wales. A community like Armidale, which has the rollout of optic fibre to the community, which has the opportunity to benefit from that in the development of its businesses and attract businesses from around Australia and from overseas. Compare that to a community which isn't going to have that rollout, Armidale, which will have a wireless rollout, as I understand it, which will be disadvantaged. And the Honourable Collar says how many subscribers they had, and that's his problem. He's stuck in today and 20 years ago and not what should be happening in 10 years. The federal minister, Malcolm Turnbull, has acknowledged on radio interviews that I've heard him on Triple J that his scheme is not the ideal and that one day they'll probably have to upgrade it at a much greater cost. We see the new MP for Eden Monaro, Peter Hendy, who breathlessly told the ABC radio recently that the rollout of fibre optic cable was happening in Eden Monaro because it was going to the new development of Googong and to Tomakin at Barlings Beach. That shows a spectacular misunderstanding of what was going to happen, because under the old rollout, fibre was going to Queanbeyan, Jerrabomberra, to the government whip's house, to Bungendore, to Braidwood, in the next, or would have been actually underway at the moment had the Labor government been returned. Those areas now have no commitment to fibre to the premises. They are the have-nots of the information technology world. Gungahlin, across in the ACT, has already had fibre optic cable rolled out. People there on their wireless in their homes using fibre optic cable linked to their homes are getting speeds of 80 megabits per second, download speeds, compared to download speeds in Queanbeyan generally under around, for those on ADSL, of around 10 megabits per second. It is simply simple logic for anybody with any brains at all to know that those areas are going to be disadvantaged. The resale values of the properties will be lower than the resale values in areas where they have fibre optic. The opportunities for business to come in and invest in those areas will be less. A business worth its salt simply will not choose, if it's a contest between two areas, an area which is not serviced by the most up-to-date, internationally competitive infrastructure. This is just as simple as saying 60 to 70 years ago, would you choose to build a business in an area which doesn't have electricity, or will you go to the one that does? It is that simple. And for members of the National Party to still not be able to understand that just shows that they are incapable of representing rural and regional New South Wales in the 21st century. It is expected of its regional and rural MPs that they will show leadership to their communities, that they will look to the future. And what the Abbott government is doing right now is putting regional New South Wales behind the eight ball when it comes to the international competition. We are seeing the situation now where other areas are beating us to the punch on developing Asian export markets in a number of key areas, and particularly agricultural products. Victorian government yesterday announced an agricultural export strategy for Asia. New South Wales is sitting on its hands. It is sitting on its hands when it comes to the loss of jobs in the Central West, and it is doing it again by refusing to advocate the rollout of optic fibre to the premises in Orange and Bathurst. We see in Orange and Bathurst two small areas of new housing development which are getting optic fibre to the premises. Two very small rollouts to the premises, fibre to the premises in those areas. But you would be stupid if you were a developer not to put optic fibre cable in a new housing development. You just simply wouldn't do that. So for the government to claim, as the member for Eden Monaro did, credit for areas where there is new developments happening where naturally they will roll out fibre optic cables, is just treating the rest of his community with contempt. The Central West needs optic fibre connection to the premises to be competitive and to overcome the job losses that we've seen in recent months through manufacturing in those areas. Job losses which are so serious that this week we saw day one of a jobs summit for the Central West and New South Wales put on by the unions in that area because of their concern over jobs. Next week we'll see the second day of that, and I do hope that we will see some members of this government appear at that jobs summit and put their case as to why they are doing nothing to assist with jobs growth in that area. We see in a community like Wagga, where a small area in North Wagga is getting fibre to the premises rolled out. The bulk of Wagga is not. And again, the coalition should hang its head in shame.
When the floods were on. They were lucky they had copper when the floods were on.
The member, the opposition, the government whip, who says how would fibre have gone in the floods? Well, fibre is a hell of a lot less susceptible to water damage than copper is. No, it is one of the dopiest comments that I've heard. Instead, we see the coalition government, at federal level, who are going to rely on antiquated copper wire to the premises for the last mile connections in all areas, copper wire which is simply not capable of keeping up with the speeds. An ambitious promise using that technology of 25 megabits per second, but one which puts Australia well behind our competitors around the world. Our competitors around the rest of the world are moving quickly, and moving well ahead of us, and for the National Party to sit there in silence is shame to it.
The member's time has expired.
Frank Underwood.
Madam Deputy President.
The Honourable Amanda Fazio.
Madam Deputy President, I move that the debate on this motion be adjourned to the next sitting day when private members' business takes precedence.
The question is the debate on this motion be adjourned to the next sitting day when private members takes precedence. All those opinions say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.